Is it possible to have voted for Donald Trump and still be disgusted with what the administration is doing right now? It should be everyone's attitude, whether they've voted for Trump or against Trump, that this current administration is a complete embarrassment to us as a people and as a nation. I'm talking, of course, about the Epstein stuff. I've been watching a little bit of CoffeeZilla's sub-channel, Voidzilla, I'm pretty sure, and a few other content creators. But the thing that I appreciated about CoffeeZilla's videos is that he went and grabbed actual video evidence from these hearings that have been going on, and just exposing this administration for how embarrassing they are. I'm going to put a few video clips in here that he used, but I would highly recommend watching his video if you want to see a really detailed breakdown on how embarrassing everything is right now for anyone who feels like this administration isn't representing the American public. These guys don't even feel or sound like they're being genuine in the least. It feels like pure desperation. I voted for Donald Trump,
but I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
But what would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about.
You
are the worst reporter. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face.
Well, I'm asking you about survivors of Jeffrey Epstein,
You know why
Mr.
you're not
President?
smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth.
For that.
Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
4,700, and we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome.
Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing, but using it in this fashion in the court of law as defense for why you can't figure out who Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking children to is an absolute embarrassment. Pam Bondi is insane for this comment. Let me just put that out there. I really wish that I was seeing something different out of what is currently going on. I voted for Trump on two different topics. Number one, at least for me at the time when I was voting, was the stance on immigration. I felt like, and I still feel like, it is very important for this country to have a population that represents what American and American values should be. That's all I'm going to say on that for now. And I think that some of the stuff that Donald Trump has been doing has been pretty good as far as making good on some of his promises. And I feel like there's been some major mishandling of certain events that we can all understand what I'm talking about. But the stuff with the Epstein files is utterly horrendous for them. Now, there's one thing I will say that I appreciate, at least out of what's going on here, whether they're freaking out about it or not, I don't really care. At least there's more information on the Epstein situation than what there was in the previous 4 years during the Biden administration. This is not to be that sincere of a compliment towards Donald Trump and everyone in office with him. It is purely just something that I am very, very happy is happening. One thing to keep in mind here is that the other reason why I voted for Donald Trump was because of the campaign promises of getting to the bottom of the Epstein situation. As I mentioned, with the Biden administration, there just was no movement, no signs of movement, and Trump at least said that, hey, we're going to be, really digging into this. Now, I voted for Trump purely based off primarily the immigration stance because I didn't really expect much to actually happen with the Epstein files. If I was a betting man at that point in time, I would have guessed that almost nothing would have happened, just like the previous 4 years continued to go. And I'm pleasantly surprised that that's not the case. And I'm also incredibly embarrassed about what's been going on in our government and how these hearings have been going. These people sound insane. They sound absolutely, positively insane. And it's one thing if, your families are being held at gunpoint and, like the idea and the thought of you releasing information is going to get them killed. Is that what's happening? I'm almost certain that this is happening to some of these people. But it is still incredibly embarrassing to watch. And to be honest, none of these people will ever deserve to be reelected or continue to hold any public office until further notice, in my eyes at least, because this is, quite frankly, the most embarrassing response that we could possibly imagine to this horrifying event. The stuff that happened on that island is traumatic to think about. I don't think it's much of a secret that a lot of the public thinks that the government or people that have a lot of money and power at the very least were deeply connected with this Epstein situation on some scale. I'm not sure how widespread it is, but it seems like the only reason why it's being held down this hard is because it's very widespread. With what's currently happening, I don't foresee any way how there's going to be a Republican nominated for the upcoming election, and these midterms are going to be an absolute disaster for the Republicans. I say good. And this is me, who has been a lifelong Republican kind of like minded person. I feel like siding yourself with a political affiliation, as I did for much of my life, is a mistake for anyone out there, because this two-party system is just blatantly so corrupt, working together when they're supposed to appear to be not working together. It's just insane. What we're seeing right now is a crazy cover-up on a scale that we might almost never see again in our lives. The crimes that were committed on Epstein's Island, Little St. James, whatever the heck you want to call it, if anyone has been paying attention to this topic for an extended period of time, you will realize that this hasn't just started with Epstein, and it hasn't just started with this within the past 20 years, but an event that has happened recently that I feel like a lot of people overlook now is Pizzagate. When we had the early beginnings of the Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump election run, there was all this controversy on what was found out in her emails, and there was hints and possible referrals to pedophilic behavior there, and it was washed as a complete hoax for all the media for years, and people essentially forgot about it for the most part. I'm sure not all of you have. I'm sure some of you remember what Pizzagate is. Some of you might even be incredulous at the idea of me bringing this up as a actual point, but if you look back at what is being talked about at the Pizzagate conspiracy stuff, it's a lot of the same extremely demonic behavior. And I firmly believe that these people who engage in at least that kind of level of behavior, if it is going on, have to be nothing more than Satan worshipers. And that is a lot of what Pizzagate goes over. I think that if anyone's interested in that topic, it would be worth digging into. But this is way before. I mean, this kind of stuff, it's so widespread and it's so covered up that this really shouldn't be a huge surprise for anyone. But watching this go down as a group of people who are meant to represent us, who I voted for as an American citizen, behaving in this way is completely embarrassing and completely irredeemable to me. I would love to hear what anyone has to say or anyone's opinions on the matter. If you have voted for Trump and have been watching what's going on, especially with the Epstein situation, I'm curious what your thoughts would be. Anyways, I hope you guys have a good one. Appreciate you watching. See you in the next one.